Bom dia. Em nome do projeto Abordagem Intercultural Preventiva de Práticas Tradicionais Nefastas.
In the name of project, we welcome everyone that is present and also those that are online. This intercultural approach to prevent harmful practices. We thank these premises that have been allowed by the Montpellier Bank and the Mutualist Association. This project is an initiative within the program SURF 2022 Daphne from the European Commission. It started in March 2023 and it's going to last 2 years. The head is Viseu Polytechnic Institute, and we have other 6 partners: the Commission for Equality and for Citizenship and Gender Equality, the Portuguese Association Support Victim, Community Impact Portugal, the PRAKSIS Association from Switzerland, Fondazione Iniziative Studi sulla Multietnicità from Italy, Victim Support Europe from Belgium. And he wants to fight against harmful practices like the female genital mutilation, the early marriage, and honor crimes. This is organized today because it's the International Day for Zero Tolerance for the Female Genital Mutilation. And today we're going to present the results of the project, the building of a handbook, training of 750 professionals in 4 countries that are partners, and awareness sessions for 800 migrant women. We're also going to present the work for the prevention done in Portugal. So to start, we're going to ask João Lázaro to come to the floor, the president of the Polytechnic Institute in Viseu. Dear partners, dear participants and other entities, José dos Santos Costa, they could not be here. So now we have João Lázaro, the president of the Portuguese Association. And he's saying that João dos Santos could not be here, so the president of the Institute. So today we celebrate this day of the zero tolerance for the female genital mutilation, but we also in this intercultural approach to prevent harmful practices. And APAV, the Portuguese Association to Protect the Victim, is a partner. This project and this initiative is the result of an initiative that we have NGOs, state bodies like SIG, international bodies and academia get together to connect the theory with the practice in order to improve public policies. It's an essential moment to reinforce our commitment to prevent and intervene near the victims of these harmful practices. There's a huge number of persons involved in this project. This is really a need because it's you, the technicians, the professionals that work daily on this and deal with very complex and challenging contexts. We have the need to have efficient approaches in order to avoid not respecting the human rights. These harmful practices put at stake the health and the capacity of many women. Mainly here in this case, we're speaking about women and girls. So we need an intercultural approach, intersectorial approach with different areas based on human rights and dignity. This has been the APAV effort during these 35 years we exist together with our partners. And this is how this project, IAPHP, has been prepared to adapt to different domains because everyone is essential for a better intervention. So today we're going to share the advances of the project in order to eradicate these practices, and we're going to try to get to those that know and to the victims of these practices. Thank you for your support, for being partners, because we believe that together we can create a safer future for everyone.
Muito obrigado, Sr. Presidente.
Thank you, President.
Chamamos agora a Presidente da
Now
Comissão
we
para a
ask
Cidadania e a
the,
Igualdade de
the
Género, Sandra Ribeiro.
President of the Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality, Sandra Ribeiro.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here to celebrate the International Day against female genital mutilation. I greet the IAPHP president and also the president of the Polytechnic Institute of Viseu. I know he had some kind of technical problem, but he will be with us shortly. So we take this day to publicly disseminate our international project on international approach to prevent harmful practices, and Portugal is part of this project with Greece and Italy and Belgium as well. And the biggest promoter was indeed the Polytechnic Institute of Viseu, and they invited us, SIG, to participate as partner. This project as a broad intervention to promote a number of measures and actions to include these 4 countries in the fight against the FGM, and we focused on the training and capacitation or empowerment. So we focused on the preventing harmful traditional practices. As you know, SIG has taken the coordination since 2009 of a number of public policies, and this is part of the Portuguese strategy to combat violence against women and domestic violence as well, within the scope of a broader strategy for equality and non-discrimination. So this was clear for us to be a part of this action, to take part in the fight against harmful practices, traditional practices, because we know that genital mutilation, female genital mutilation, usually is just the tip of the iceberg against the violation of women's rights, and they attain any number of women of all ages, all different traditional scopes, and it touches a number of girls and women. And we cannot forget this also comes with a certain scope of social disadvantage. These women are usually vulnerable and in a social exclusion because they are women, because they are migrants, because most of them are Black, and they mostly belong to lower classes. So we have to look at this also in a broader scope. And this is why this project is so important and so welcomed by us, because it has this cross approach that not only promotes the empowerment of professionals, but also includes training within a number of sectors, whether education, health, social services, and so on. So this was a very intense work that involved a number of civil society organizations, international organizations, different partners from different natures, with the scope to combat female genital mutilation. And the results are seen. We are already on the field, and this is a joint bet, a joint work at the national and international level. We are betting on the field, on the interdisciplinary cooperation, and among institutions, nationals and internationals. A decade ago, we could not get at least one testimony from a survivor. Nowadays, we have victims that became their own activists for their own cause. They are empowered, and they now can look and they are empowered. And also because they represent inspiring models for so many other girls and women. And I also have to make a reference to the program on healthy practices. It's an excellent example of institutional cooperation in course for some years and with the principal scope of to have some actions to prevent the FGM. In the Portuguese Lisbon city, we have already a number of programs we hope to disseminate to the all countries. And we have a number of associations already as partners to SIG, and they have been invited to integrate our workforce and also the town halls and also the local power. And everyone is very much committed to develop a number of actions within this scope. All programs and projects that SIG is participating or funding have the mission, the main mission to alert, to raise awareness on this topic of preventing FGM and to promote and capacitate and empower the men and women involved within this scope. This is our contribution today in this day, this International Day against female genital mutilation. This is our contribution. Thank you so much.
Muito obrigado, Sra. Presidente. Passamos à apresentação do projeto e dos seus resultados preliminares. Convidamos ao palco Emília Coutinho, do Instituto Polytechnic de Viseu, e David Roy, da Community Impact.
We ask for Emília Coutinho and David Roy from Community Impact to come on stage. Emília Coutinho is from the Viseu Polytechnic Institute. They're going to present the project and the preliminary results.
Olá, bom dia.
Hello, good morning.
Todos e a todas. Sejam bem-vindos.
Be welcome to this conference. I want to thank this opening session for this opening session that has allowed us to understand where we are in this discussion. So thank you.
Bom dia também para as pessoas.
I want to say good morning also to those that are not in presence here in the room but are listening to us online.
Dizer-vos que esta apresentação vai
So this presentation is going then to be available.
a ser feita em português.
Now it's in Portuguese, but it also
Para inglês e
we're translating it into English, and for the Portuguese
e vou então apresentar
gestural
fazer uma
language.
apresentação breve deste projeto.
So I'm going to present this project
Apresentado
that has been already mentioned several times now. So what is the
preventiva
IAPHP, the intercultural approach to prevent harmful practices? And I'm just going to show you a very, very short movie. But before that, it is important that we here and those that are with us online, it's important that we know what this is all about. What are these harmful traditional practices? Did we think about that?
no nosso imaginário,
In our imagination, sometimes we think that it's something far away, a bit exotic, from faraway countries, and it's not very relevant.
efetivamente,
But
este vídeo vai nos ajudar
this video is going to understand the concept and understand the dimension of this problem.
nesse sentido. Eu
And in this sense,
atenção para
I would ask you to pay attention and follow us in this video.
Factos-chave sobre mutilação genital feminina.
Key facts on female genital mutilation, forced marriage and honor crimes worldwide.
Sensibilizar e defender mudança para proteger mulheres migrantes, meninas e refugiadas. O projeto IAPHP tem como missão combater a mutilação genital feminina, o casamento forçado e os crimes de honra através da formação de profissionais da linha da frente e mulheres migrantes na detecção, prevenção e resposta a práticas prejudiciais. Ao sensibilizar e defender a mudança, o nosso objetivo é garantir apoio atempado para as vítimas e promover um futuro mais seguro e equitativo. Mutilação genital feminina MGM. Dados da Unicef 2024. Mutilação genital feminina. É uma prática prejudicial que envolve a remoção parcial ou total dos órgãos genitais femininos, causando danos físicos e emocionais. Mais de 230 milhões meninas e mulheres afetadas em todo o mundo. 4,4 milhões meninas em risco de sofrer MGM a cada ano. 190 mil casos em 17 países europeus. Casamento forçado. Dados do Women Center for Human Rights Studies, UNIMA, Unicef, 2023. Casamento forçado. É um casamento onde uma ou ambas as partes são coagidas a casar contra a sua vontade, sob ameaças ou pressões. Normalmente envolve meninas e adolescentes, e até meninas bebês são prometidas em casamento antes do nascimento, muitas vezes devido à pressão familiar ou social. 12 milhões meninas forçadas a casar a cada ano. Mais de 650 milhões mulheres casadas enquanto crianças. Crimes de honra. Dados da Human Rights Watch e Organizações de Direitos das Mulheres 2020, UNWomen 2021-2022. Crimes de honra. São atos violentos, tipicamente contra mulheres, realizados para proteger ou restaurar a honra da família ou da comunidade, incluindo agressão física ou homicídio. De 5.000 a 50.000 mulheres vítimas anualmente. Aproximadamente 45.000 mulheres vítimas e impacto da Covid-19. Juntos, podemos acabar com a violência contra mulheres e meninas. Levante-se contra a mutilação genital feminina, casamento forçado e crimes de honra. Defenda a mudança e proteja os seus direitos. Projeto IAPHP Serve 2022 Daphne. Obrigado pela sua atenção.
É por isto que acabamos de ver, de ouvir, que este projeto
It's because of all what we've seen that this is a relevant project. These huge numbers.
estamos a falar de milhões.
We're speaking about millions.
E, efetivamente,
And indeed, if we think that,
e se tivéssemos sido nós,
imagine, if it was
das práticas,
one of us
ou até das
suffering these practices, one, two, even all of them.
como aconteceu, nem eu tinha noção da dimensão
You know, I was not aware of the dimension and the impact
nas pessoas
that these practices have in
que me
people.
potencializei e me empoderei
And I got aware and I was more empowered when I heard
a falar.
face to face women speaking about what happened to them in their lives. One of them
Três práticas.
has been suffering all three practices,
A seguir,
FGM,
corso
then
mutilação
forced marriage.
aos 7 anos.
So she was FGM when she was 7, forced marriage when she was 12, and then honor crimes
Fazer a maioridade.
before getting
Avassalador.
to
E é
age.
impactante
It really has a huge impact.
de deixar de emocionar quando estava a ouvir.
I was really very emotional, especially when I heard this before getting to adulthood. So these women, then they become activists, and they say, thank you for listening to me, thank you for being interested in what's going on with my life. Oh, nice that someone from the international organizations and for a special organization is interested in what's going on. So indeed, this was a very important process, a transforming process, even for me. I would like to say that this team we have here, Sandra also said that Portugal, Belgium, Italy and Greece, so 4 countries. It's a multinational team, multidisciplinary. And this is one of our meetings, preparing this conference. And what is our goal? Well, we mentioned this already in the opening session. It's to train on intercultural mediation, online, face-to-face, to prevent harmful traditional practices. This training has been to first-line professionals and also to migrant women, but it's also open to the community, because this is what's going on. It's not only the migrant women that needs to be aware, it's also the migrant men. It's the community at large. Because if we just get migrant women aware, well, it's a change, because we are empowering and training these women so that they have a different attitude, so that they can somehow answer the situation where they're living and maybe free themselves a bit from this weight that lasts for life. But nevertheless, the community needs to be aware of this. The community at large, all of us, we need to be aware of this reality. We need to create that wave. And how do we organize ourselves? Well, like all projects, we have a chronogram, like the project timeline. We have 4 great areas for these 2 years: the project management, intercultural toolkit design, tailored training, monitoring, dissemination, and evaluation. We implemented methodologies, quantitative and qualitative, so statistics mapping and literature review, surveys, interviews, training, conception, implementation of all these tailored programs in order to have the data analysis of our project. I'm going to go really quickly through all the activities, because we mentioned some of them and others are going to be developed. So we have the digital toolkit, the training of professionals, the first-line professionals, awareness of the migrant, and the surveys. So our goal was to develop 105 surveys, 20 interviews to migrant women, and 20 interviews to frontline practitioners. And the toolkit is going to be presented more in detail. We mentioned these 720 first-line practitioners that we're training. It's good to go beyond these numbers, but David is going to show this. We wanted to have 800 migrant women. That was the project. And as you can see, this is a very ambitious project. And our goal is to get to 500,000 people. Huge numbers, aren't they? Very ambitious numbers. And we have a lot of challenges in front of us. But we were surprised here in Portugal to see that everyone is really involved. Those that got a specific training, they became awareness agents. So they were trained, these first-line practitioners, and they themselves they were transformed in awareness agents. They were looking for different ways to disseminate the importance of this project awareness campaigns, videos, bancards, and other things. And I just give you one of these examples. One of the works that have been performed that wants to show the potential to develop of those that are not victims. So this is the approach, those that are not victims.
Emociona-me ver.
It's very emotional, isn't it?
Professora, nós queremos participar. Nós queremos fazer.
Children said, we want to participate, we want to make a difference, we want to be part of this wave that you started. We want to be part of it. So here you have some of the references. Well, and I want to say thank you. So now we're going to present the preliminary results of the project. Thank you.
Bom dia, peço. Coloque a apresentação, por favor.
Good morning. Please put on our presentation, please.
Enquanto isso, começo por me dirigir.
While we're waiting for the technical, I would like to address the SIG presentation and the president of IPV and everyone here. Good morning. This project, IAPHP, is very important, and the Human Rights Commission also joined this effort and also helped on the concept of this project. So I have to start by thank my colleague, also Dr. Tomás, that really boost all the results and takeaways from these projects. So on this project, what I think it is most important to come back to is this idea, this psychological thesis that some still defend, that is sustained and funded in a number of thinkers, whereby each community can have their own practices and social rules that we only have. This is a kind of supporting human rights. So this relativism or moral relativism is something that we refute, strongly refute, because according to the if each community should have their own practices, and the very concept of human rights allows each community to have their own practices. And we acknowledge that every community has their own specific moral and religious rules, but we have to have a common ground for universal rights. Different thinkers have different approaches, and what we are trying to do here is to defend this basic approach whereby we have to be involved and ruled by a common moral rule, set of rules. So this project aimed at developing a manual practice, a good practice, and to empower professionals, first-line professionals in 4 countries of Europe, as Ms. Emilia has said. This entailed a number of dynamics where it was difficult to recruit these professionals, and trying to we have a number of trainings on human practices, but we are now able to empower more than 600 health professionals, and also within the area of social practice and also legal practices. We are also empowering migrants, and we have a number of difficulties and obstacles to approach these communities, migrant communities. So we also extended this empowering approach to the general public and the civil society in general. So in terms of the composition of our partnership, we have to understand we have 4 entities in Portugal, so the numbers are more relevant from Portugal, of course. We have more numbers from Portugal, so we now have more than 400 professionals empowered, and also in Belgium and Italy, and Greece is also following up a very empowering strategy for these professionals. It will be implemented shortly. In terms of practices and of purposes, this project also aimed at developing more abilities for these professionals in terms of following up these victims, because this area is a kind of a niche, and in terms also in scientific terms, it's not a very developed area. 2 decades ago, we wouldn't study this in universities. So this is relatively new for the social workers and other workers within this area. They are not very aware of all the specificities. So we had some witness statements, and some of them would say that our knowledge was limited to recognizing specific practices such as female genital mutilation and early forced marriage, and these practices result in significant harm and are interconnected with other crimes such as, let us say, domestic violence and human trafficking. And also we had another participant. These are, I have to tell you, we have more than 600 participants, so we only have here three statements, so this we have a lot more to share. And one that worked with war refugees, and that he won more knowledge of the everyday work. And another one said that he had gained confidence in engaging with diverse cultural backgrounds in a much deeper way. Statistically, we applied classical pre and post surveys, and we are able now to conclude the following. Most participants, in terms of skills to prevent FGM and also to prevent honor crimes or forced marriage, they evaluate this training as very good or excellent in terms of obtaining new knowledges and learning and skills. And these professionals also said, 237 that said that after this training, they felt they are more qualified to deal with these subjects. All the surveys were obviously anonymous, so that we ensure the ethical treatment of everything. In terms of methods and the practicality and usefulness of these trainings, all participants said these were very practical trainings, because not only we talk about the theories, but we also have a very theoretical and practical approach. So all professionals said that their daily routines would be very empowered by these trainings. They consider it very important. In terms of awareness sessions for migrant women, we had to deal with a number of challenges. We are still working to attain the numbers that we wanted to attain. We are still working on new strategies to get what we want. In terms of nationalities, it is very interesting to see that we also got to touch some countries that allow for these practices. For instance, we were able to touch some migrants from Nigeria, Guinea-Bissau, through some associations that have a very important work within the field. So these awareness sessions also told us that we already have some activists that used to be victims, and now they are very important to have their voices heard. So they are not only victims,
Tal como estava a dizer,
as I was saying, many victims, they are not only victims, but they were later empowered to be activists. This is so inspiring for us. And these activists use their own experience to promote the prevention of FGM. So this is a very important way to prevent this phenomenon. In terms of touching not only the migrant community, we also said that we wanted to attain general public. We also attained that. In terms of age range, we were able to attain a very young public, which is very important because most of the victims are very young girls. In terms of knowledge assessment, we also use the same kind of approach and in terms of assessing, and the results are very inspiring and grateful, because most of our trainees, they say they have more theoretical knowledge, but also in terms of practices like following up and how to deal with, where to send them, and a very practical knowledge. And this is very empowering for us as well. So we want to have a social impact, even if this is still some kind of taboo topic, because even if the leaders say that we should not talk about this topic, we have to have the moral courage to discuss these topics without any kind of taboo, because we are democratic societies, as Karl Popper said. So thank you very much for your attention.
Obrigado a ambos. Os
Thank you
resultados apresentados
both.
são
The
muito
results
indicativos da
are
importância deste projeto.
show the importance of this
Vamos agora
project.
conhecer o manual
So now
prático que
we
foi
will
desenvolvido
go
pelo
to
apoio
the
operacionais de
practical
diferentes áreas para que possam
manual
identificar,
and
encaminhar e intervir junto de mulheres que
to
sofreram ou
how to
estão em risco de
intervene
sofrer
within
danos
the
relacionados com
victims.
práticas tradicionais nefastas.
So anything that have
Damos
to
as
do with
boas-vindas a
preventing
Lia Lombardi,
harmful
da Fondazione
practices.
Iniziative
So
Studi
Lia
sulla
Lombardi,
Multietnicità,
of the
usa
Fondazione
distância,
Iniziative, and Mariana Pinto of APAV. You have the floor.
Can you hear and see me?
Yes, Leah, good morning. We can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you, but I have something like an echo. No, it's okay now. It's okay. Okay. Good morning to everyone. I'm very glad to see here. Also, if I'm in a co-conference, in video conference. Sorry, I'm sorry to be not there, but anyway, this important and so technological tools we allow us to anyway to proceed in some way and to call to talk with you. Anyway, I will share my presentation. I try to share it. Is it okay? Can you see that?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. So I'm Lia Lombardi from Fondazione Iniziative, and with my colleague, she's there with you in person. I will present in very few words and very short presentation the Toolkit website, which has been one of our action specifically for and in up to Fondazione. So why this toolkit? The toolkit was developed to provide practical tools and resources to support professionals and practitioners with different backgrounds, so that they can prevent, identify, address, and intervene with women who have suffered or are at risk to suffer harmful practices. The objective of the toolkit is to raise awareness among health and social workers, teachers, and all professionals working with women who are victims or potentially victims of harmful practices. The toolkit has been built on the contribution provided by all partners gathered during the survey and from the a lot or several meetings we did specifically about the toolkit website. The contents are available in two distinct modes, a PDF document and a website. And after this short presentation, I will show the website itself. The PDF document is downloadable on the website. It is structured in 4 sections. Four main section was prevent, early detection, referral, crisis intervention, recommendation for policies and practices. It is available in 6 languages: English, Italian, French, Greek, Portuguese, and Arabic. And the website, anyway, it is structured in 8 sections. The home page, the toolkit under the 6 languages in PDF, a section about what are harmful practice, another section regarding the methodology of prevention, another section regarding the early detection and referral, crisis intervention, recommendation for practitioners and resources. We have on each sections, we have some subsections. From home, the home page is divided, for example, what are harmful practices, recommendations for practitioners and resources. And what are the harmful practices is divided itself in other 3 like definition of owner of crime, definition of early forced marriage, definition of FGM. Foundation for practitioners as another subsection regarding procedures for communicating with the victims or those at risk of harmful practices. And resources, in which this is an interesting and useful section in which you can find videos, manuals, case studies, toolkits, and other material. Okay, now I would like to present some the number of the access to the page, our ISMU web page project. We started to collect this data from October and above all from November. You see that some days ago, at 4 of February, the accesses to the project, to the page project was 1,195, and the access to the training pages was on 921. We have some other data regarding the access to the toolkit website specifically. You can see that we have had some pages and the home pages itself in 3 months. I think a significantly increase of the accesses regarding the unique visitor to toolkit, the total number of sessions to toolkit, and above all, the number of pages visited. We doubled the accesses in 3 months, and also the accesses to the visitors in the other pages. And we have had in the last month good increasing of the access to the toolkit PDF. Also because we completed all the translation of the PDF toolkit. Here you can see the accesses to single pages, and they increased. Above all, regarding the home page, our toolkit with the PDF toolkits, and also methodology and other significant sections. We collected, and we started to collect also the sources for the access. The main sources are Google.com, the ISMU organization and the ISMU website, and IAPHP from IPV, the IAPHP project from IPV, and from the organization. We also started to collect the number of the visitors from each country, each partner country, and we see that from Portugal we have the main number of the visitors, Italy, following from by Italy, Belgium, Greece, and Netherlands too. So my short presentation is finished, and I thank you for your attention. I would like to show you now the toolkit pages, the toolkit website, if I have just a minute.
Sure, go ahead.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. This is the home page, you see, and you have the explanation regarding about the toolkit, about IAPHP project. Of course, the website is, I'll say, is shorter than the PDF, which is complete, and I think Mariana will present it in a few minutes, in a few time. Here our toolkit, and here you can find our toolkit, the PDF toolkit in English, Italian. You can download it, Portuguese, French, Greek, and Arabic languages. It is complete, and Mariana will explain better or in a longer explanation. Anyway, here we have what are the harmful practices with the explanation, and with the subsection you see regarding the definition of honor crimes, definition of early forced marriage, and definition of FGM. The methodology of prevention with explanation and other section, comprehensive health education, promotion of literacy, awareness-raising campaign, training, capacity building, civic engagement, and peer-to-peer support. On each page, on each section, you can find also references. Then you have the early detection and referral with all explanation and references, and also other subsection interesting, and which could be very useful for practitioner, for anyone you need or you want to know and to have many knowledge about it, but above all for practitioners. Also, I think it is very interesting for cultural mediators too. Here you can find a recommendation with another subsection regarding procedures for communicating with the victims and so on. And finally, the resources. You can see videos, manuals, toolkits, and case study. They are also interesting and useful, for example, for prediction and also for trainers, because they are cases which could be discussed and elaborate with the trainees. Thank you very much for your attention. My presentation is...
Grazie, Lia. Mariana, por favor.
Okay.
Thank you, Lia. Mariana, you have the floor.
Em primeiro lugar, agradecer em nome da Associação Portuguesa de Apoio à Vítima.
First of all, I want to thank in the name of the Portuguese Association of Victim Support to participate in this conference, but also in this project. It's something that we're going to share with these partners and wonderful colleagues. I want to say thank you to the Polytechnic Institute of Viseu, the promoter of this project, and in the name of Sandra Ribeiro, all the efforts that have been implemented for this conference. The part that Leah presented explains the content of the toolkit. It's for consultation of first-line practitioners. So this toolkit has been developed to reinforce the prevention capacity to identify and intervene in the case of harmful traditional practices. We've seen, like in FGM, forced marriage, and honor crimes. So he wants to promote a more efficient response that is more structured to protect the victims and vulnerable population. This toolkit is seen like a manual handbook. It's a tool to help professionals of different domains to prevent and identify, intervene with women that suffered or are at risk of suffering these harmful traditional practices. We hope that it will allow more information going around, awareness and training of professionals so that we can act in more confidence and knowing more what's going on in these complex situations. This is free access, this toolkit. It's available to any professional organization or entity so that they can be used and reused. The toolkit is divided in 4 big sections: prevention, early detection and following up, and intervention in crisis situation, and finally a recommendation for policies and practices. So it's for first-line practitioners. The first section touches the prevention. How to speak about harmful traditional practices in school, how to allow children and youth to learn about their rights and have a critical idea about gender equality. So we always have to have into account awareness, and if we have early awareness, we can prevent these practices so that people know more knowledge about this, and creating a safe environment so that in the school we can discuss these sensitive topics. Here we also discuss a multi-sectorial and disciplinary approach to protect women, and how can the professionals identify women, having into account that the key to success is the collaboration between different sectors and entities, ensuring communities are active in this change. We also discuss the consequences of harmful traditional practices that go beyond physical, also the psychosocial and health problems for the health of the victim and the people around her. Next section speaks about the early detection and the follow-up. How can we, or the reference to refer? So the risk signals that can be discrete, but it is essential that the health, justice, social actors are aware and know how to act. To refer the person can ensure that the victim gets the needed support and is protected in all moments. So the toolkit exploits the capacity of the authority, the juridic protection for migrant women, and the importance of a risk evaluation that is adequate in these situations. The next section speaks about intervention in crisis situations that should be immediate, coordinated, and culturally aware. The victim needs to have access to juridic and psychological support, but should feel safe and respected. How to ensure a safe environment and a trust environment for the victim so that she can share her experience. It's necessary to respect the victim and have an action that is sensitive from a cultural point of view, how to act in case of imminent danger, and the importance of all the support networks and all the professionals that can support the victim. And finally, the fourth and last section of the toolkit presents practical recommendations to eradicate harmful traditional practices should not only be responsible of the first-line practitioners. We need to have public policies that are adequate but efficient. We need to have political, social, and community action to have practices that can be implemented. So that for this toolkit to have a real impact, we need that professionals, so you, have access to this resource. So it is very important to have a good access to this toolkit. It should be available to all people interested. Thank you so much.
Obrigado, Mariana.
Thank you, Mariana.
Esta é uma ferramenta
This is an essential tool to make awareness for the
prevention
prevention of harmful traditional practices. Now we're going to have the presentation of the training actions and awareness sessions. So we call ANANEVs for the Commission for Citizenship, Gender Equality, Larissa Spaci from Victim and Support Europe, Chiara Dalla Valle from Fondazione Iniziative, Studi sulla Multietnicità, Alexia Apostolopoulou from PRAKSIS, and the moderator, Antonio De Martin from Victim Support Europe.
Good morning, welcome, and special thank you also on my part for your presence here, for taking the time, for your interest, and probably also for putting on hold some of your personal, professional activities, and because you care about what we talk about here. And this is also very much appreciated, rewarding for us to see that, because we can safely say that over the last several months we have been working tirelessly and with a lot of passion, a lot of dedication, and to see that people are interested in what we have been doing is really important to us. But allow me just to say a few words. I'm truly happy to be moderating this panel. We asked to have this panel because I think it covers one of the most important, impactful, I would even say innovative and creative activities that the project was able to produce. And I think it deserves a few exchanges, and also to hear first-hand impressions, insights, challenges that we had, the lessons learned, I think what's behind that, the rationale behind that, why, where they come from, why we need that. And David Rua covers some of these parts, but I think we will be able to go in a much deeper level, and that's the goal of the panel. And we will do it with the very persons, with the very experts that developed trainings, that developed workshops and awareness-raising sessions, that deliver the trainings. So we'll be able to get from them what they observed, what they collected, and what they learned, and how this will inform the next steps, how this will change or impact potentially, let's see whether it's the case, the way we conduct and we deliver activities of this kind in the field. It was already mentioned that the focus is the training for first-line practitioners and awareness-raising sessions that were initially and primarily targeting migrant women, but were also extended to the general public. Just as it was also probably briefly mentioned, activities have been conducted in 4 different countries: Portugal, Greece, Italy, Belgium. For training, 26 sessions as of yesterday. Things are still being finalized, and around 600 people, practitioners were involved. Awareness raising sessions, 16 different sessions, and around 200 people that participate in the activities. And as per my conversations with different panelists, many more are yet to come and have been already pinned down, have already been organized, and are happening in the next days. So allow me perhaps, since the panelists were introduced, yes, but now you can see their faces, I will just reintroduce them a second. So I have on my right Ana Neves, Policy Officer from the Domestic and Gender-Based Unit, Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality, Portugal. I have on the far left, Chiara Della Valle, my left, researcher and trainer, ISMU Foundation. I think in English we can translate it into Initiatives and Studies on Multiethnicities from Italy. Is that all right? Fantastic, thank you very much. We have at Chiara's right, we have Larissa Spahic, Project and Partnership Assistant from Victim Support Europe, also my beloved and very, very caring colleague. And we have Alexia Apostolopoulou. I hope I pronounce it correctly, almost. Let me try again, Apostolopoulou, no. Apostolopoulou. Okay. There we go. We're there. Okay, thank you very much. Legal officer at PRAKSIS, and PRAKSIS stands for Programs of Development, Social Support and Medical Cooperation from Greece. So welcome. Thank you for being here with us, and looking forward to having this conversation with you. I'd say that without further ado, we start diving into the first part, and the first part is about training for practitioners. And we involved a wide range of practitioners, from social and victim support workers to doctors, child protection officers, public officers, educators, lawyers, NGO service and support providers, among others. There are many. The list is very long, but this is a little bit to give you an idea of whom we targeted, whom we were able to reach, and to have, hopefully, and now we'll see whether it's the case, the impact that we wanted to have. The training as well as the awareness-raising sessions have been developed jointly and as a consortium by all the partners. Victim Support Europe somehow led a little bit the process with the help of the profession of the other partners when it comes to the training, and then we'll see the role of ISMU also for the awareness raising sessions. But for this specific reason, for the role of Victim Support Europe in taking a little bit the lead in the development of this of the training modules, training materials, and the approach itself, I would like to ask a first question to Larissa Spahic, Victim Support Europe, about the training and where, first and foremost, the need for this training on harmful practices to practitioners in different EU countries stem from. Where does it come from, right? And why is it important? Larissa.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me? Oh, okay, sorry. First of all, hello everyone, and I'm very happy to be here and to see the results on the screen, and there is a lot of effort behind this. I think we all will agree here. Back to your question regarding the need for the training, where it stems from. I would say that seeing the numbers and high numbers of mostly women and girls affected by or in the risk of harmful practices is the main reason why we decided to go up on this path and to develop this project. if I'm not sure, but I think we did not mention, for me was this number really something shocking when I read first time, to see 600,000 women in European Union living with the FGM, while 180 of them in the risk to undergo this practice. So I think this was one of the main and big reasons to go to this path, but also first-line practitioners are those who are coming in contact with this vulnerable population, and what we notice is the inadequate knowledge how to approach those people and inadequate way, and to speak about this topic, to act, to prevent, and to do something regarding this. So the training was some kind of way to overcome the gap between that, to equip the first-line practitioners with the knowledge how to prevent, how to respond, and how to detect the harmful practices. And on the other side, it was to empower migrant women to recognize first signs of the harm on the one side, but also to know their right and to take the action to protect themselves. And I would say the last instance was to ensure that victims receive appropriate legal and psychological support in this process. So those are the most, I would say, important reasons why we went to this path as this partnership. And I think we did a lot of work on this way.
Thank you, Larissa. Thank you very much. And I believe that what you just shared is also shared by all the other partners, because I think, well, we found ourselves several times discussing the why and then the how, but first the why. And I think that one of the strengths of this consortium was to be very much on the same page on the importance of acting through these capacity building activities that we see as a sort of cascade that can contribute gradually to change, to make a change, to introduce a change in the way that you just described. Thank you very much for this. But I was referring to the how, and I was referring to, if you want, to the what. What did we do? How? If we look at the trainings, what do they look like? Why did they look like that? With which idea in mind? How were they developed? Can you tell us a little bit more? Because we discussed about the training in a bit of an abstract way so far. Let's try to go into the detail, into the concreteness of things.
Thank you. When it comes to developing the training material, the task of developing it was entrusted to Victim Support Europe, of course, with big support with our partners and their reliable feedback on this material. It consists of the 4 modules. 2 are the online modules, and they are at the Victim Support Hub, where the participants needed to go first through them, and then they needed to join to a trainer-led session. The first module was the intercultural competence, so it was focusing mostly, let's say, how to define the main terms around the competence, culture, tradition, what is culture awareness, what is culture empathy, and the end, how to develop cultural competence to approach to the cases of harmful practices. Then we have the second module, which was optional one, but we always recommended to participants to go through it, and it is related to translator and cultural mediators, and their role to bridge the cultural differences, let's say like that. But also what we wanted to show as well, that sometimes if you don't choose the right one, that it can have the consequences as well. So cooperating and working in this area was also a very important step, I would say, in introduction, at least in this part, to understand how to work with them. Then we had the two other modules, which was trainer-led modules. And the third module was Introduction to Harmful Practices, and is essential for practitioners to understand and respect cultural diversity, but also to define all terms related to harmful practices, but also with a special focus with the FGM, forced marriage, and honor crimes. So it was more or less trying to explain, but also with interactive approach, in sense that we were coming together to the conclusion. The participants was very much engaged with the different kind of methodologies and cases that we tried to interpret how could be on the ground, and to come together to conclude to some very insightful conclusions. And the last module was psychological and mental health of the victims, and of course where we wanted to address the consequences of harmful practices, but also what are the available services, and of course they are just there as a first-line practitioners coming in touch with those cases, but they also need the support from organizations who are specialized in this area. So this part, the last part, was like with more concrete steps how to help the people, those people. So yeah, I think I summarized everything. I hope so.
I think so, and I think it gives a little bit of an overview and a more practical kind of understanding of how we put it together, what it covered and why. So thank you very much for this. I think now we towards the part that to me is the most interesting. That is, okay, we know why we did it, we know how and what it looks like, but now how did it work in practice? What are our impressions? What did we observe? So I would like now to have everyone, the whole panel involved in answering a question that is about one of or some of the main challenges that we encountered, a key lesson learned that we can take away, but also, and so we close the part on a also hopefully on a positive note, a particularly meaningful aspect or feedback that makes you feel, okay, it was worth it. It was important to do. And I would start with Ana Neves, and please.
Because we are all speaking in English, I will try my best. The Portuguese woman here is going to speak in English also. So pardon my English. I hope that you all understand me. So I think that one of the main challenges that we had is giving the knowledge to the technicians, because some of them don't even know that all of these practices exist. So I think this is the main challenge, to see if they are available. I think that they are available, but they don't know what this is, most of them. And it's important also to give them this kind of information with no judgment of the people that we are going to work with. So this is a challenge to pass this information to them, that they are working in a cultural environment and they have to respect it. So I think this is a challenge, but I think that we did it nicely. Also, in Portugal, we work with a lot of ONGs and associations that also do this kind of activities. So I think that bringing the voice of those associations to this project and this training also was a challenge, and I think that we did it, at least in Portugal. I was one of the, with Inês, I was one of, and Emilia, of course, one of the people that gave this training. And we tried to do this to maintain the respect for the people that the technicians, and then who they are receiving this kind of information. So we had this very good feedback, and I think that it's important to give you is that I think all of the trainees that received this training, they talked about it with us and they gave us a lot of good information. But Emilia brought this information that I think it's very important to give you. Some of she worked with a lot of health department trainees, and afterwards they wanted to give some training or make some sessions with women after this, and they want to become trainees. So I think that is a very good feedback that people want to reproduce this, and they want to go ahead with this.
Thank you, Anna. And indeed, I think it's one of the clearest signs that, of the impact on how it was perceived and the importance that was seen in the activity and in the power that the replication, right? The power of replication of this activity itself. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. And I want to ask Alexia from PRAKSIS the same question. As we said, we're still finalizing the activities, so perhaps challenges may vary from one organization to another, but let's hear from Alexia what are the main challenges that she has encountered so far. Yes.
Hello. As far as I understand, the answer I'm going to give you is a little bit similar to the one I already heard and your presentation also. As I told you, as you heard before, I am the lawyer of my organization, so I dealt with that project from the legal point of view. And my personal perception is limited, but I'm based on the results of the teamwork of PRAKSIS, and that's why I'm keeping an eye on the notes that they have given me. PRAKSIS is an organization that is dealing with cases like this, like refugee women and sex-biased, gender-biased crimes, and cases like this for many years. Despite that, dealing with that program made us realize how difficult it's still for us. It's still for us because we had to work with women because we have already conducted sessions with 20 women in small groups, but 20 of them. And we have come across with first-line practitioners in order to create sessions with them in this month, February. And we realized that we had this kind of problems, like, first of all, the sensitivity of the topic, mostly for the women, okay? But even for first-line practitioners, because they didn't know how to, they cannot imagine how to proceed with that and how to come in contact with a victim of such a situation. So we had to deal also with problems of language. A very important problem with language. How to make these women understand and how to to make these first-line practitioners come in contact with this person when it's needed. We had to adapt every situation on its own characteristic because every story is different from the other. When it comes also to first-line practitioners, we know that we will have to face the problem of their own personal time, working time. For instance, we don't know if they can give us 3 days of their life, of their working everyday life to us and dedicate it to that program. We had to face these problems like this. And the feedback we had, the feedback is more or less the same as we always have in praxis. The feeling that especially these women felt that they had someone to listen to them, someone to understand, the surprise they felt that someone is taking care of them about those difficult situations. And it's also a feedback from the first-line practitioners because they didn't know that they would have to deal with cases like this and they would have to make a carry about that. So it was both two categories, different actions from them, different reactions from them. No, it's...
Thank you, Alexia. And I think what you're saying also captures quite well the gap that this project wants to fill, and the fact, the difficulties, the challenges are really reflecting that. And and this has been quite, I think, the leitmotif, or something that has been a very, let's say, an element that across the board was discussed during the project, and I think also ways to fill this gap, and the exchange of good practices between different organizations helped also reaching the goals that we had reached and we are finalizing now, and we're reaching completely in these days. I wanted to ask Chiara now the same question about key challenges, one lesson learned, and when it comes to training, of course, and then one element that makes you say, okay, it was worth doing it, it was worth investing time and energy because...
Yeah, thank you to everyone. I'm here from Fondazione Iniziative, and Lia is my colleague, and so the two of us developed and carried out all the activities of the project in the Italian context. And of course, I agree with what our colleagues from other countries said right now. I just want to add a few elements, few elements that we consider important in the Italian context. So a challenge that was also an opportunity in our experience was the fact that we tried to not stay focused only on FGM, but we try to cover all the harmful practices at the core of the project in a perspective that try to combine them. So what we wanted to do during the training was to show that very often in the stories of women, you don't see only one harmful practice, but most of all, these practices combine to each other. And we did it employing like real cases taken from the Italian situation. So, for example, we had a case a couple of years ago of a girls from Pakistani origin, and she was killed by her family because she refused to get engaged in a forced marriage with a countryman. And she was killed because she was said to have brought shame on her family. And so that was an example of how forced marriage combine with honor crimes. And we did other examples, for example, taken by experience in the activities that we carried out during the survey part of the project, and we did many interviews to local NGOs working with Roma community in Milan, and that was a case when we find very young teenagers engaged in combined marriage. So it was a case when you can see, like, it was not an early marriage in a strict sense, because these guys are like 14 or 15 years old. But in that case, we try to discuss with participants the fact that sometimes the combined marriage can be a forced marriage, and it is an early marriage. So you see, the line between categories was like blurred, and it was interesting with participants, with attendees, to discuss these issues and to see that harmful practices are a complex issue. So you cannot just approach them in a categorized way. You need to catch this complexity if you want to develop effective strategies. Another issue that we found very interesting is the fact that we had in the audience both professionals from an Italian origin and professionals with a migratory background. And that was interesting because these first-line practitioners brought a very fresh perspective on harmful practices. And also they were very helpful in make more understandable the cultural approach to these practices. So, for example, we had a young lady who was born in Italy within an Indian family, and now she's working as a social worker with Indian migrant women. And so it was interesting to discuss with her how she sees the theme, the issue of harmful practices in her own community, actually. We also invited many linguistic and cultural mediators, and all these women that come from a foreign country made themselves the experience of migration. Some of them also of the experience of one of these harmful practices, and then they are there to see how we can cope with working with migrant women as well. So we thought that the training arena was a very rich situation where to also make a rich exchange of best practices among practitioners. And I think that's
yeah. Larissa?
Yeah, thank you. I will be quick. So I would just mention maybe some specific challenge for Victim Support Europe was to encourage, let's say, specific and most relevant first-line practitioners, in sense that, to explain, we are umbrella organization and we are not working directly with the victims or these specific groups. So it was very, for us, important to connect with the first-line practitioners who are doing that, and in the later stage when we were organizing awareness raising session, they were contact points to reach those people because of this intercultural approach that we needed to have to those people, because if you are not working with that group, it is really sensitive to just like that approach and talk about that. So I would say that this was really one important point. And what you, Chiara, mentioned, learning by doing, I would say it was the same process, like two-way process during the training. So each time, because I was helping our trainer to facilitate the training, and we would sit afterwards and speak about the feedback, and then adjust it each time for the next group to have, like, let's say, most important aspects, and for them elements that they required during the previous training. So I would say that this learning by doing method was very much beneficial to develop more and better the training for the first-line practitioners.
Thank you, Larissa, and thank you, everyone, to all the panelists, because I think we were able to get very different perspectives, insights, and aspects were raised, covered, that are all relevant and but I think they all belong to this effort, to this general effort. But at the same time, I think it gives you the granular kind of better understanding of what's behind that and what's the rationale, what are the things that we were trying to address, and ways to go, and how we improved also things as we were going, observing by observation. Now, I think I would transition to the part about awareness raising sessions, workshops, and I think we abundantly discussed the why in terms of project, in terms of capacity building activities. So I would skip the part where we discussed the why of that, but I would be interested to know from Ismo, who led the development of these awareness raising sessions and the content, what were the methods that were used, the tools that you decided to incorporate in these activities, and if I may, we discussed about the stigma. We discussed about that as a critical element to be addressed, but also as an element to be considered in order to have to ensure open, non-judgmental, sensitive discussions. Right? How were you? How did you address this? And do you feel that you were as ISMO developing and us as a consortium able to be successful in that regard?
Well, I have to start saying that as ISMO, we approached this activity from a disadvantage point because, as Larissa mentioned, for Victim Support Europe, we also are not an organization working directly with migrants. So that was at the beginning like a challenge that we had to face. But on the other side, I have to say that we have been working for a long time, more than a few decades, with local NGOs, and we have a very strong networks with association, NGOs, and other entities of the third sector working with the migrant issues. And so we decided to approach the development of the awareness-raising sessions exactly from this point. So what we did, and this also helped us to plan the awareness session as well, we started contacting all these organizations, all these associations, and also all the cultural mediators we were working with in order to discuss with them the best way to structure and carry out the awareness sessions. And this was really important because we did not organize great numbers, great events. We preferred to carry out small activities with small groups. Sometimes we had like 5, 7 women, sometimes 15, but that was what made possible to really interact with migrant women. And the presence of the cultural mediator was crucial in this sense. The cultural mediators that sometimes were not a professional cultural mediators, maybe they were just other migrant women with a long experience in Italy, but with a strong connection with migrant communities. So we organized each section with them, deciding how to discuss the topic, which kind of approach to have with this specific group. Because sometimes we had homogeneous groups, so for example, groups made up only of Nigerian women. But in other cases, we had heterogenic groups. We had a session with women from Northern Africa and at the same time, women from the Central Africa. So we had 2 cultural mediators, and it was really interesting to foster discussion among women who had different experience of different harmful practices. So it was a kind of pluralistic voice coming up from that situation. Our approach was to try to be aware of our own possibility of prejudice and of stereotypes. So we started saying maybe we as a trainers might approach the issue of harmful practices with a sort of label in our mind. And so we did a lot of efforts to try to avoid to bring this label into the sessions. That's why we never made judgments about harmful practices, moral judgments like this is wrong, you don't have to do it, or stuff like that. We just try to keep a very comfortable setting, a neutral setting, and all the time asking women what they thought about what we were talking about. So what do you know this practice, you know what I'm talking about, what do you think about it? Do you agree about what we are saying or not, and if not, why? And that was really interesting because women felt free to express their opinion and to have a debate altogether. It was a sort of, I don't know if it is the correct word in English, but in Italian it is a sort of cultural delocalization. So starting to be the center of the discussion with our cultural positions and really try to create a neutral space for discussion. With this approach, cultural mediators, as I was saying before, were of course crucial. We also try to, let's say, design each session around the needs of women. So, for example, if they were available in the evening, we met them in the evening. If they were just available with an online mode, we decided to create an online meeting. If they prefer to meet face-to-face, we organized the face-to-face meeting. So we were really open to adjust our approach to the specific group that we had. We were working with. And the last thing I want to say is that sometimes concerning methods, we never asked women to talk about their personal experience, but to engage them in discussion. Sometimes we propose a sort of study case. So we brought some stories taken from other research that we did or other interviews, saying what do you think about this story? What do you think are the potential of this person we are talking about? Or what do you think are the critical aspects of the situation this woman is in? And how do you think that this person can overcome the critical situation? And that was a good way to engage women into discussion. Then afterwards, some of the attendees decided to share their own experience, but it was something that came from their own decision and probably from their feeling in a comfortable space. But we never engaged them in or forcing them in telling their stories. So this is more or less how we structure it and how we try to prevent the stereotype issue, which is actually might be a critical aspect in this kind of sessions.
Thank you, Chiara. I think this answer really sheds a lot of light on what's behind the difficulties that you have to face and deal with if you want to have a product, if we want to call it so, or a result that is informed by all these critical elements. And I think the methods that you described very well, very precisely, I think reflects that as well. I would like to just conclude or approach the conclusion of this panel by asking everyone a bit about their impression of whether these methods worked, whether they delivered what we wanted to have delivered, whether the impact that we were seeking or the atmosphere, the environment that we wanted to create was created or not. So feedback that you received, aspects, positive aspects or not as well that you observed. That would be interesting to hear from all of you. Larissa?
Yeah, I will also connect to your last part. It was really interesting to observe how with the different methods, with the intercultural methods, when we organized the awareness session and we created the safe space and observe how the people who don't know each other, we don't know them, they don't know between each other, but it created some space to share the story, to have some meaningful interactions, and in the end to come to some conclusions. So I would say that feedback was super positive in our awareness session, and I really like this kind of approach to have the safe space to speak about it and to provide that for the participants. Our first awareness session was organized only with a migrant woman, and it was really interesting to observe that. The second one will be open for the general population. If I may use the opportunity to promote it. So it will be on 17 February. So the next one will be open for the general population. Of course, we adjust a bit approach to this group. It will be different. Yeah, we hope it will join as much as possible people to raise awareness on this issue.
Thank you, Larissa. And I would pose the same question to Alexia.
I'll give you the same answer. The most important feedback was that feeling of safe space that was created for these women. They were given the opportunity to make use of internet. That's an example, okay? They were given the opportunity to speak without being exposed because most of the groups were online, so they felt more secure. They were given the information that, oops, what's going on here in this country, in this continent? These practices are not legal, and they are being punished, and they are people who are suffering from them can be protected. That was the most important feedback, that they didn't know that they could be protected, and that they were victims of these practices. A second very important feedback, it was that they spread this information to their community, and we believe that even more people now know that they can have protection and they can feel safe. In terms of let's say practical feedback, we realized one more time how important social services are when they are backing up programs like this, because the social services of PRAKSIS were really helpful and very important and crucial in helping us dealing with these women. So we realized one more time that having a right social service can be very helpful and can be productive, really productive. And another feedback that we also had was that since we are working with other organizations in terms of other programs, which are, for instance, dealing with sexual harassment, for example, they showed a great interest in that toolkit and in that procedure. They realized that it can be helpful for them too. So we had that impact also.
Thank you very much for this. Again, it adds other dimensions to what has been said before, and it's not true, you didn't repeat it all. I think you added 2 or 3 layers, which is, I think, very interesting to hear, and it gives a more granular understanding of this, all these aspects we're looking at. Again, I would like to hear from Ana Neves a bit about the feedback, a bit about also potentially the positive effects that have been observed, if any, and it's hard to observe in those sessions, but let's try to explore that as well, if that's the case, please.
Yes, I think a positive aspect and the feedback is that women can become activists not only after these sessions. Well, Portugal has some organizations that already work in this kind of matters, and they have programs for activists, women that were survivors or young people that belong to this kind of organization. So it's reproduce this kind of work, and this project also and this awareness sessions brought this feeling of they can, and the utility. They talked about the utility and feeling that Portugal and Europe is thinking about this problem. So I think also the feedback about this is important. But it's if you can raise consciences about this, awareness about this, and women can talk about this and make this an issue, because this is a very an issue that is inside their homes, and so this is a problem. So bringing this to the population in general, it's good. Making them talk about it and talk with some other women about it, young and old together. This is also good, and I think that we had this feedback.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much for sharing this. It's very nice to hear as well, and I think it's again it's one other aspect that we're adding to the conversation. And I would conclude this panel asking Chiara what the impressions are, what the feedback was, and what was the general observation that you had when you applied those very methods that you described a few minutes back.
Yeah, I think I will replicate what my colleagues have already said, because we also had the feedback on the sort of activism of women that attended the sessions. So many of them told us that they were very interested in bringing these issues to their own families and to their own communities. So that was for sure one important aspect. And it was also interesting to see how women liked to exchange point of views. So, for example, as you were mentioning, older women talking with younger women. We had, for example, in the case of the Nigerian community, some women that have been living in Italy for 30 years and others that were just arrived. So it was very interesting to see how they contaminate their point of views, and that was a feedback that they gave us, and that was interesting. And also the same happened when we had a mixed group with different migrant women from different countries, because maybe in some countries people were aware of FGMs, but not of early marriage. So this dimension of exchange and of knowing something new and knowing a new perspective was a feedback that we had and that women really appreciate.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for this very interesting, nice conversation. Thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for sharing all these valuable reflections, and I would just invite the audience just to join me in a round of applause for our panel. Thank you.
Muito obrigado. A sensibilização contra a
Thank
mutilação
you.
genital feminina junto da população.
Thank you. Raising awareness among population about female genitation along with training technicians is fundamental to eradicate this practice that harms the rights of women and girls. We will now take a short 15-minute break. Those present in the room are invited to go to the gallery for a coffee break. Thank you.
Liga. Ah, é só cá. Ok.
Bem-vindas e bem-vindos à segunda parte da Conferência Internacional do projeto Abordagem Intercultural Preventiva de Práticas Tradicionais Nefastas. Vamos conhecer o trabalho desenvolvido por algumas associações que em Portugal trabalham para prevenir estas práticas. A Sofia Telo, da Comissão para a Cidadania e Igualdade de Género, vai moderar esta mesa redonda, para a qual convidamos também Carla Martingo, da Aspas, e Ana Rita Brito, da ACTO.
Bom dia. Eu vou dar início então agora
Good morning. I will start by sharing the Portuguese experiences on harmful traditional practices. As you know, today we celebrate the International Day on Zero Tolerance to Female Genital Mutilation. Portugal has engaged in this goal since 2007. We are just talking about this with my fellow members from this panel, and we have a number of specific to prevent and combat the genital mutilation. Nowadays, this is inscribed within the action plan to prevent and combat violence against women and domestic violence, which is a formal engagement on a broader scope to protect women. This option is a consequence of Istanbul Convention, ratified by Portugal in 2013 and entered into force a year later. This action plan is exclusively dedicated to prevent and combat the practices, harmful traditional practices, including this FGM. Within this scope, this plan of action, we can find measures like reinforced prevention, reinforce the technical quality to respond to victims, profound or in-depth of knowledge of social context, social and cultural context, qualify the intervention of strategic publics, and support the civil society organizations. We at SIC are trying to make the light so that these different ways may see the light. For some years, this aims to all the associations that work within the scope of preventing and combating harmful practices. Within this technical and funding line, we supported 11 projects or entities. Some of them are still ongoing, and we are talking about local entities that know their own communities, which allow us to approach them directly and thus promote the dissemination of credible information on the impact of this practice. Knowing is power, so especially when we have to deal with ancient rituals. Here we have some of the projects. Some of the projects are located in the north of Portugal, like Adis, that has a project in Hermesinde at the north of Portugal. Cultural Face also collected a number of statements in Guinea-Bissau to check how they work with this practice of female genital mutilation. And then after this project, they will have a video to disseminate in the radio, not only in Portugal, but in every Portuguese-speaking country. Here we also have different entities that also have projects, ongoing projects. This one you have, for instance, in Palmela we have an Islamic teacher and moderator, so that she can talk about these projects. We can say that these projects bet on the training of professionals. So as I was saying, We support also awareness sessions to promote different sessions for different publics, whether they are cult places or venues, not only in Lisbon, but also at the national scope. Just this afternoon, we'll have Gentopia that will promote. Gentopia will promote a session just this afternoon to celebrate this practice. Also, we challenge our entities to select women that could be our cultural mediations. Now we have an open contest, an open tender for the technical and financial support to develop projects to prevent and combat any harmful traditional practices. All for this tender, every information you can find it online until the 28th of February. It's on our website, all the regulation, the subscription, how to apply, and all that you can find in our webpage. Well, some years ago already, we have been also investing on awareness campaigns near the communities that are more at risk, mainly at the national airports during the holidays and Easter vacations. Last February, we have these boards and all the partners that arrived could, of course, see these boards, I hope. Also, we have another area that we support is the health. We have a post-graduation course on female genital mutilation. We already have 6 sessions in Lisboa and in Setúbal, and also in different scholars, in different faculties, in different colleges, within scopes of protocols celebrated with SIC. This is all fully funded by SIC, and the trainees don't have to pay absolutely anything. We fund the whole course. We also want to continue the project Healthy Practices to put an end on FGM and to enlarge this to all the national territory. In 2018, we had 5 groups of health centers, but in 2020 we had 5 entities, more places, and this project had 3 axes: integrate public politics instruments to put this topic on the action plans of all local public powers, also empower professionals on this realm, and these practitioners would be focal points in the respective health centers, and they could promote this information cascading to all their colleagues. And also a third point on the community intervention to work with women and children and girls that may be at risk of this practice. In 2023, according to DG Health, we detected and registered in our electronic platform 223 cases of FGM. The hospital called Amadora Sintra reported the biggest number of cases. Actually, it was the hospitals where we found more cases, registered more cases. FGM is usually performed in the origin countries, mainly Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and Senegal. So this allows us to understand how this works and make the proper follow-up to all these cases. We also aim to go through another study on the existence of FGM in Portugal. The last one was from 2015. So 2 decades after the most important public policies on these topics, we can say that this topic is definitely inscribed in the public, politic, and technical national agenda, not only in terms of raising awareness on this practice, but also we were able to build some methods and actions and strategies to fight it. This practice is a crime since 2015, a clear example of Portuguese commitment on this realm. Even the preparatory acts are viewed as a crime, are considered a crime. Also, each step on the combat of the gender violence is a step forward in affirming equality. In the same way, each measure we take to empower our women in what is fundamental for their society reduces the possibilities of women accepting their daughters to go under these same harmful practices. Thank you.
Passamos a palavra então a Carla Martinho da Aspas. Obrigado.
We give the floor to Carla Martin from Aspas. Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon, indeed. Thank you for the invitation. She's sent to us. We are very honored for that. And what I'm going to present, the work from Aspas in the last 20 years in the FGM, and present the most recent products of the project that has been financed by SIG. Aspas was founded in 93. In 88, it was a SSS, and we've been in 98, in 2000 and 2002 become more aware and more global. We work in the community, the health field, with vulnerable populations, victims of inequalities, where harmful traditional practices exist and are worked in more specific ways. We start working the mutilation since 98. Aspas presented the European partnership. Back then was when we had the boom of the projects with HIV/AIDS. So there was a European project, we belonged to that. We created a toolkit about the FGM. And we were already correlating the FGM with AIDS transmission. So we're working on this field for many years. We participated in several researches. We worked in post-graduations with different entities. And in 2016, we had a meeting. Caterina is here. So that's when we had the beginning of the regional meetings. First one was in Amadora. And then several projects that have been financed mainly by CIG, with the financing of NGOs. So thank you for allowing us to implement our projects. Our work is in 4 axes: to work in network. We don't work alone, we work in partnership, because I believe no one can have a good result without a work in partnership, especially in this area of FGM. All the products we develop have free access. Everyone can use, and there's no need to have a special authorization to access. So everyone can have access to what we create. The interventions are sustainable. So when the project comes to an end, the product that we created still exists. Then we update it as an association so that the products we create don't get out of date. So this is one of the ideas, to get things existing after the end of the project. And we have this training of professionals and of institutions, professors, the security forces, health professionals, social security workers, etc. In 2018, CIG helped us to develop this project. It's an app to be used in mobile phone. for young people. So it uses smartphones. It was developed in the professional school in Amadora. We only worked on the contents. You know, this app has several questions as it goes on. If you fail, they explain why. If you can't not answer the question, you can't go on, but it explains why did you answer wrongly, so then you can go on. So this is to be used in school. One of our products, and I think it's very interesting, and IAPHP is different because of this, because we want to create an integrated protocol for the intervention of FGM, in Amadora, and the municipality of Amadora helped us. Why do we do this? Because we know that there are guidelines for security forces, health professionals, but when we get all these guidelines together in the field where we want to work, sometimes they are opposite recommendations. So we set everyone together and we discussed all these aspects and how could we discuss this topic in Amadora. So we explained, first of all, what is a mutilation. We explained the indicators, the legal framework, and then we work each one of these areas specifically on this topic of mutilation. So this was in 2019. In 2022, as a follow-up of the project, we did an analysis of the protocol and we updated the protocol in Amadora. We also did some research work where we analyzed biography and bibliography of migrant populations from FGM countries into Europe, and we could see what happens that will make the FGM. So it was very important to make it forbidden, to have police intervening, to make it obligatory for these children to go to school. So when you have the education, so these children will know that the normal is different from the normal in the parents' home. So we're speaking here about Portuguese children. So the contact with countries of origin, if there's a ghetto, then it's more often that you have FGM. And then also it's important to know the consequences of this practice in family members or people that the children know. Oh, this protocol has been integrated into other aspects, and we updated also other aspects in the protocol. So we integrated all that new information in this new document. We had some financing last year, and we could, with that, create a site with all the information that exists about mutilation. Because we know there are a lot of information, there are a lot of research, there are a lot of entities working on this topic, but indeed there's not one place, a unique place, to look for this information. And that's what we did. We got all the information that exists, and we tried to create a site with accessible language, easy, not technical. So here we have different buttons. This one says, what's the project all about?
Yes.
You can open this one, please. You can click on it. Is it okay? Can you? Okay, so here there's an explanation about the project. Then the second explains what is the FGM, what's the mutilation, typology, consequences, causes, the age it is performed. So everything related with mutilation is here. And what's the goal? Because people want to work on this and professionals want to have the knowledge from the academic point of view. And here you have all the information. So it's easier to know what is possible to know about this practice.
Temos depois a prevalência, portanto, estes dados
Then,
do
where
formulário,
it occurs, I say that all the information that we have here has sources, so it's trustworthy.
Pode carregar aqui neste botãozinho, onde diz prevalência. Ora deixa.
Where it says prevalence, will you please just click there, where it says prevalence? Yes, please.
Este botão remete
So if you click here, you go to the result of the WorkIt project as a consequence of 28 too many. And it shows the existence of FGM in regional profiles. So if someone wants to have a work on Gambia or Burkina Faso, can click in the country and has all the data about mutilation. So this gives more tools so that with the site, someone that's working on this topic can get more information, trustworthy information.
Agradecer ao colega, porque isto foi pedido à última da hora.
Thank you to my colleague that prepared this, was last minute. So he prepared this last minute to be presented here. Okay, so we go back.
Informação, depois vocês vão poder explorar, mas queria só mostrar que na informação nós
you
temos...
can explore this more in detail, but we have here an option.
Pronto. Na informação há um botão que tem as organizações todas...
Where you see all the organizations that are working on FGM. And the president of ASFAS spoke with all entities that have known projects on this domain, asking authorization to use the logo. Most said yes. So when you go into the site, you will see the logos of each one. So when you go into the site and you have the name of the information, you go to the site of each one of these organizations. Because this is not an ASPA site. This is a community site where we can say what people do. And then we have highlights. There we get news. There's also a template where the entities can present their news, and then we put them online. And now resources. We have bibliographic, video, resources, and if you want to download what is there, or if you want to share in a social network, WhatsApp, X, whatever. We still don't have the logos, as you can see, but these entities, most of them, they authorized us to include the logos. I'm just going to present an example. Let's imagine. The second one. We have the colleague from this association here in the room. So immediately, he goes to the page of the association where they speak about these harmful practices. So we explain already what has been done. So we've been working on FGM for 20 years. So there's a lot that has already been done. We know everything that we can do. The activists, these are activists, very important ones. So this site aggregates the resources, and it's going to be constantly updated. So as we include news or reports that are important, we update all the information that we have in the site. Thank you. We can leave now. We can close the page.
Pronto. Deixa aqui os nossos
Well,
contactos.
here you have our contact. If you want to present a suggestion, send us a news, anything. We have here our contacts. We have a specific area for mutilation, so feel free to share with us. Thank you, Carla. Now I give the floor to Ana Rita. Good morning to everyone. In the name of ACTU, I want to thank the invitation that has been addressed to us. Can we see the presentation, please? Well, nevertheless, I'm going to start because really time is running. So ACTU is an NGO based in Coimbra, but works at national level. We were created in 2015 and we promote the gender equality and fight against gender violence. We have several projects going on, and we have the Welcoming Center and Protection for Youngsters and Children Victims of Human Trafficking, and the Femina House, the same thing. It's a center to welcome women and children that are victims of all these harmful traditional practices. Calliope, there's a project that's going now on the second session, or financed by SIG, and it's also working on gender equality. And we have the other Junta Nagai initiative to fight the FGM using the financial support that Sofia just mentioned. I'm going to focus on that a bit further on. So now I'm going to speak about the harmful practices, both in Casa Femina and in the project Junta Nagai. So we have this house that wants to welcome women with children or without that are signaled as victims of gender violence, like the harmful practice like the FGM or forced marriages. We have the capacity to have 10 people. The goals of the center, it have for a certain moment to welcome these people. So it's the victims of gender violence are welcome here. We ensure the follow-up. We give the conditions for their well-being, physical and psychological well-being. And we ensure a systematic intervention in the medical support, juridical support, and psychosocial and psychological and social support. I share what the colleagues mentioned in the previous panel in respect to support, because these women, they don't see that there's a crime concerning the female genital mutilation. They don't see it as a crime. So we have here the general principles that we respect in the house: confidentiality, 24 hours support, a multidisciplinary team, and work in a network, which is essential in these domains of fight against gender violence. All the support, social, psychotherapeutical, legal, medical, and to the assisted return if they want to go back to their own country, or if they want to go to a third country, if they want to do so. It's not easy to work on this topic of mutilation because the victim doesn't see it as a crime. In this case, we have 3 girls that have been victims because that's how they have been signaled. But if you look at the violences and the way the violence is cumulative, then will be 8, because many of them have been exploited sexually. Those that have been exploited sexually, they have been mutilated. The ones that have been forced to marry, they've been subject to mutilation.
de acumulação aqui das formas de violência de género.
So
Este
the
número da mutilação
gender violence, the number of FGM, it will be 8 and not 3. The forced marriage, it's also here. Now have the new European directive to fight the traffic for forced marriage, and also the honor crimes and domestic violence, because we welcome all gender violence. Well, this project was in first place given by the Commission for Citizenship and Gender Equality. The name has been given by the girls because it's very difficult for us, technicians, to say, how come? Who are you to tell me that my mother should not have subjected me to this practice of mutilation? Who are you? So we worked with the children, and they were the ones giving the name to the project. Junto Nagai means my body in their own dialect. Because they thought, and we also thought, it was necessary to have a book for children between 8 to 12 about FGM, but as a violation of human rights. So this book is the result of an artistic residence that's about to come to an end, that wants to develop this cooperative work with the girls that have been subject to FGM and other women subject to that, with experts and health technicians, other organizations from the area that work this topic, and schools. So here we intervene on these harmful traditional practices. We make children aware about the crime of FGM as a violation of human rights, and we create general awareness about this crime. This is not easy, and the writer of the book had the hardest job, because it's not easy to speak about this topic and then convey the idea to children so that they will be more aware about this violation of human rights. Thank you.
Muito obrigado pelos vossos
Thank
testemunhos
you
e pelo
for your
trabalho que
testimonies,
desenvolvem
and thank you for the work you develop with the communities. I invite the Minister of Youth Modernization to address the final words. Margarida Balseiro Lopes, President of SIG, APAV, representatives of the partners of the project, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the International Day of Zero Tolerance to the FGM, but we met here today to signal more than just a date. We are together to again state our commitment to dignity, integrity, and freedom of women and children and girls, and that's innegotiable. We met here today because we cannot be indifferent. Each victim represents a way back on the fight on human rights. The harmful traditional practices like FGM cannot be justified in name of the culture or tradition. These are violent acts, crimes that are painful from the point of view emotional or physical, and creating suffering and inequality. These practices, they deny women and girls the right of freedom, the self-determination, the right to have a life without fear. Nobody should grow believing that their suffering is an inevitable destiny. It is essential to remember that culture cannot justify the violation of human rights. And that's the reason why we're here. We believe that it's possible to build a world where no woman should have scars that are imposed to her in the name of a tradition that oppresses her. Today, we reaffirm clearly zero tolerance means action. Zero tolerance means to state that these practices cannot happen in our societies. Zero tolerance means that we need to mobilize resources, cross borders, and ensure that no girl or woman will be forgotten in these fights. These harmful traditional practices touch thousands of girls and women all around the world. The honor crimes, very strongly violence on women, means a lot of people die every year. Lives that are sacrificed as a reflex of social norms that are oppressive and put the honor of a family above life and dignity of the victims. FGM is still a practice, and it is devastating, affecting girls everywhere in the world, independently of the geographic borders. According with UN data, today, more than 200 million women and girls live with the consequences of this practice. This year, we think that 4.4 million girls are at risk of suffering FGM. This is like 12,000 cases a day. Portugal, it's also suffering from this. Between 2012 and 14, more than 1,300 cases have been reported. And according with data that have been published by the Health DG, between January and December last year, 214 cases have been registered. The early marriage and forced marriage is a silent reality. Between 2015 and 2023, we identified 836 cases in Portugal, 126 with children between 10 and 14 years old. All these numbers represent the stories of thousands of girls and women, lives that have suffering and pain, exposed to unimaginable horrors without dignity, without autonomy. To eradicate this practice means that we need to act in a coordinated way. We need collectively to transform mentalities, fight structural inequalities, and we need to build societies where all girls and women can live safely. And in July last year, we were working on the White Book on early and forced marriage. This was something going on since 21. In October 24, finally we came to an end. It was the result of a collaborative work between government, civil society, and NGOs. So this document is an essential tool to guide public policies and specific actions against a practice that steals the freedom and future of so many girls. But to diagnose the problem, it's not enough. We need to act. And that's the reason why we launched the financial line for projects to prevent and fight all harmful traditional practices. And we have 80,000 euros in total. This is a result of the recommendations of the White Book. And we want to have initiatives that reinforce the protection of children and youth, promote awareness, and ensures a more efficient answer to this violence. But we went further. Recently, we signed the cooperation protocol between different entities, CIG, IMA, the Health DG, to this year launch the post-graduation course for FGM. We want to train health professionals and other agents to have a role in the fight to this practice. We signed also the protocol that's going to be ensured the enlargement of the program Healthy Practices, Let's Go to an End to Female Genital Mutilation in Oporto. This program was in the standby since 2023, but wants to give answers in the several regions and do it through integrated local networks. During the first quarter of this year, 2025, we're going to create a working group to work on prevention and fight against harmful traditional practices. This working group is going to develop a signaling refer model to create a training course and have specific measures to improve the intervention in this domain. This is another step forward to fight against these practices that go against the freedom and future of so many women and girls. But we can't do this alone. The harmful traditional practices are global, so we need to fight them globally. So Portugal, Greece, Italy, and Belgium got together to create an approach that ensures an efficient prevention of these practices. This project allowed to strengthen cooperation links and work on the best practices to go against harmful traditional practices. The impact of this collaboration is real. Data is essential. In order to increase the capacity to give an answer, we created a training for 700 professionals and 480 in Portugal within the national network to support the victims, the health field, etc. And we developed a handbook. It's going to be available in 6 languages, including Portuguese. We had awareness sessions with 800 women, 132 in Portugal, to promote the access to information and the consolidation of network support. This means that we are really going forward fighting against these harmful practices, having a better inclusion and respect on the fundamental rights of everybody. To eradicate FGM and other harmful traditional practices demands more than just a will, demands courage, persistence, and mainly an action. Change doesn't happen alone. All the associations have to work for that, and I thank them. All the authorities are into it to eliminate this practice, and all the professionals that work on this to defend human rights. To all of you here, and all of those that are not here, but it's like they are because they're online, I want to thank all of them. Our message needs to be clear. There is no tradition that justifies violence. There's no culture that can validate the violation of human rights. There's no excuse to perpetuate inequalities. We cannot accept less than a world where women can live without fear, without pain, without restrictions imposed by discrimination. And this fight is also made by words. That's why I want to speak about a voice that left us this week, fighting for freedom and the rights of women. Maria Teresa Horta went over silence and censorship and said that the body of a woman is not an object, it's ours. As she wrote, it's enough. It's enough to make of the body of the woman the water where you have all the wishes. Thank you.
Vamos que permaneça em palco e chamamos também a senhora Presidente da SIG, o senhor Presidente da APAV,
CIG, please.
em representação do senhor Presidente do IPV,
The President of APAV and the President of the Viseu Polytechnic Institute, and please, Minister, you also stay on stage. So we're going to offer you a few souvenirs.
Muitíssimo obrigada,
Thank you, Minister, for being here, for your words, for the wonderful speech, very empowered. So in the name of the Polytechnic Institute, but in the name of IAPHP and IAPHP, and all these 4 countries, Portugal, Belgium, Italy, and Greece, I want to thank you for being here with us.
Doutora Sandra.
Dr. Sandra, thank you. Because in the opening session, like João Lázaro,
facilitaram a minha apresentação.
Made it easier for me to present the project because you presented great speeches. They helped us to make this day a very special one in our lives, but also in the lives of women that are urgently in need of our help. And they are so happy. They say, oh, it's wonderful that you are interested. Thank you for going on this path with us, because we were feeling alone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to close this event. Thank you so much to everyone assisting. Thank you.
Damos assim por terminada.
So we come to an end to this international conference of this project of intercultural approach to prevent harmful practices. These practices violate human rights and they originate emotional, physical and psychological damage associated to grave and severe violence, and we need to prevent and fight. In the name of the Polytechnic Institute of Viseu, the Citizenship and Equality of Gender Commission, Portuguese Society Support to the Victim, Community Impact, Association of Fondazione Iniziative, Studi, sulla Multietnicità, and Victim Support Europe, we thank you for your presence. Thank you so much.